since this is a date, I prefer you to Uber me or you can pick me up. And he's like, oh, well, I think you could just do it yourself.
Welcome back to another episode. We're going to roll the clip. Before we do me a huge favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for more content. It really does help the channel get exposure. Now let's get into it.
This week, and it was a good date. We had a fun time together. He's a big time lawyer. He owns 3 to 4 cars. He's doing really well in life. You guys know I'm a model. I'm new to the city. Transplant. Don't even have a car yet. Like, still building up my life out here. Regardless, I expect my date to either pick me up or Uber me to the date. That is just my standard. The first date, he was a perfect gentleman. He picked me up and everything. He calls me today for a second date. He wants to go golfing. I said, great. What time are you picking me up? He's like, well, it's out of the way to pick you up. I just recommend you Uber to me and then we can go on our date. And then I wasn't sure if he meant me Uber myself or him Uber me. So I hung up and I texted him. I was like, hey, I'm excited for Saturday, but just to clarify. He calls me up and he's like, can you clarify your text message? And I said, I was wondering what you meant by the Uber. Were you going to call me an Uber or did you want me to call an Uber for myself? And he said, I recommend you call an Uber for yourself. And I said, oh, well, since this is a date, I prefer you to Uber me or you can pick me up. And he's like, oh, well, I think you could just do it yourself. And my thing is, yes, I can do it myself, but you're asking me on a date. I expect to be taken care of. Pick me up or call me an Uber. The notion that it's too far or too out of the way for the date, it's an inconvenience for me because now I have to pay for part of this date. I have a problem with that. And when I think about it, you guys, like some women, my sister, for example, she won't even pay for an ice cream at the end of the date. And she's been dating her guy for a couple years now, but even the first few months of their dating, she refused to pay for anything. She didn't pay for anything. He was like, can't you just pay for an ice cream after dinner? And she's like, no. And guess what? She moves in with this man. They've been together for 3 years, about to get married. He picked that girl. He didn't pick the girl that was like trying to be nice and pay for her own Uber and pay for her own meal. No, he picked the girl that refused to pay for shit, refused to pay for anything for his ass, and he is in love. He's about to put a ring on it.
Poor guy.
He pays all the bills. They live together. He pays for everything. And yet, when they first started dating, he tried to play her. He was like, oh, can you just pay for this? No, I'm not paying for anything. Take it or leave it. He took it. So if he wanted to, ladies, he would. Okay, keep your standards high. That's all I gotta say.
Before we go full scorched earth on this lady from the buffoonery we just heard, let's see what the people of TikTok has to say. I had one that said, I think she's joking. This can't be real. Another one said, effort goes both ways, obviously, but that's something that doesn't register in her head. Another one says, choosing to pay for my Uber doesn't mean standards are low. Each to their own. I think she means to each their own, but we get the gist. They're delivering the blows softly. This lady said, I respect the idea of wanting to be taken care of and knowing your worth. I personally can't allow someone to pay for everything because I don't. Sounds like a reasonable person. This one might be my favorite one. It says, today I'm choosing kindness. Another one, straightforward, something that we're all thinking. It says, no thanks. And I found this gem from somebody who's actually in the space. His name is Austin Dunham, and he said, entitlement through the roof, which is obvious. All right, you guys, let's get down to business. There's a few key points that I want to hit on this video, and I'll start in the linear fashion as it happens. Right off the jump, she mentioned that she is starting her life essentially over. She's a work in progress. She just moved to a city. She doesn't have a car, something to do with the transplant. So just with that little bit of information, we know that she has a lot to do to work on herself. And we're not even talking about the physical appearance portion. That was apparently obvious. That got the whole internet shaking about it. But I'm not the type of person to tell someone how they should live their life if I was having a one-on-one conversation, but I would say something like this. If I was in your situation, I would be focused on myself to at least get into more efficient, livable conditions. Because if you don't have a meaningful way to get around and you're expecting other people to transport you and take care of you, you just objectively have your priorities mixed up. And there's nothing wrong for being down and out. It can happen to anyone. But if you are down and out, you need to figure out a way to put yourself in a better position So you can come onto the marketplace with a little bit more that you can bring to the table, and also the benefit of making your life better. Another key point that I want to hit is that she was telling us that the guy that she's dealing with is not just a lawyer, but a big time lawyer. Proof being by like his assets, his companies, his cash flow, etc. She knows that this guy is big ballin'. Now, Rollo Tomasi said it best. Most women that are going to get a high performing, high value man will do so in their earlier years by taking an educated bet on that guy. So maybe he's in some sort of STEM field or degree program. So she's going to go find that guy, invest into him early on, and hopefully it's going to pay out when he hits 35, 36, 37. Something that a lot of women don't understand: if a guy is single and he hits that point where he's reaching his peak potential, or just at least financially blowing all the other guys out of the water, you are competing for that guy as if you're trying to get on a spot on an NFL team. You're option 626, Lilo and Stitch reference. But in all seriousness, I don't care what type of woman you are. I don't care if you look better than Beyonce, Rihanna, or whoever that you idolize as your female role model in beauty standards. I don't care what you look like. You're officially competing for that guy, and it doesn't matter what you bring to the table. You just essentially have to meet his metrics and then hope and pray that he chooses you, because he literally has access to the entire dating market. So for you to basically tell him how things are going to go, take it or leave it, I guarantee you this lady was left in the dust. And if he didn't do it initially, as soon as he saw this video, because it went hyper viral, he just pushed her out the way. Like the great and late Kevin Samuels said, want what you want, but buy what you can afford. Here's what's truly scary about this video. The older I get, the more that I realize that the mainstream media has so much power. Most people truly are sheep, and I'm not saying that to sound cool or to say that I'm better than anyone else, but as you start cross-referencing a bunch of empirical data, you realize that a lot of people truly are sheep. Certain categories of people are prone to certain behaviors, and it happens like clockwork. You can literally predict what people are going to do if you understand them at a fundamental level and then take into account certain variables. But anyway, the mainstream media has pushed all these movements, and I'm just going to say movements because I don't want YouTube to shadow ban my video, but they've pushed these movements that bottom tier women really do believe that higher tier men have to bend over backwards to accommodate them. And that's just not how any type of relationship works. So after they get done essentially being used by these top tier guys, the average guy just seems like nothing to them, and they won't even consider them as a dating prospect. Hence why marriage is also dropping. There's other things like men saying, you know what, I'm out, I'm getting out of this. But it's just really crazy for me to think that mainstream media has such a strong pull that can influence entire generations, multiple generations, to think in such a buffoonery type manner. It's crazy, and it's something that everyone should take an account for because it affects everybody's day-to-day life. And the last keynote I want to hit, apparently this type of thinking did work for her sister, but what she has to realize that even if it did work, even if she's the same caliber woman that she is, which I highly doubt it if she landed a top tier guy and he took her seriously and decided to move in with her, but even if that did happen, so all the stars lined up in her favor, that's an exception. That is not the rule. I know a ton of high value men, or at least men that are doing very well financially, because I'm heavily involved in real estate in my current market. And these guys, it's pretty much textbooks. A lot of them had a woman take a bet on them. They started producing, they started families. Those that aren't married, they're playing the field. And like I said, they're just turning over plates over and over again. And they'll even turn over plates for women like this if they're having some sort of a dry spell, but they'll never take them seriously. So to go into the dating market expecting higher tier guys to bend over backwards for you while you bring literally nothing to the table but a bill, that's a time to cross-reference and also think about, like, hey, what am I doing with myself? And maybe my ideologies are bad. But anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap up this video. Once again, please do me a huge favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let me know your comments down below. Peace.